Hello Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm here today with a special video. A video that basically I've done mainly for Scott of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, because it is his birthday today, and because Australia is so far ahead of the United States in terms of time zone, it's already Scott's birthday in Australia, even though it's not his birthday yet here. So about a week and a half ago, Scott posted a video where he reads books that other booktubers had rated 5 stars and sees what he thinks about them. And so I basically did a miniature version of that same video with books from this year that Scott has rated 5 stars. Now, I had a few rules with this. Scott had read about over 30 books this year that he had rated 5 stars, and so I did not pick books that I had already read. So there were several Thomas Hardy novels in there, of course, so I didn't pick those, and I also didn't pick 2 other books that I'd read. I think one was The Death of Vivek OG, and the other one was The Vegetarian by Hong Kong. So that, gave me about 25 or so books I could pick from, and I only obviously could pick books that I had access to through my library, but I think the 3 that I picked are probably pretty useful for this experiment, because I think they were all ones that Scott felt pretty strongly about, and sometimes Scott and Nell felt pretty strongly about them. So anyway, I'm going to link Scott's video down below where he does his experiment of reading other booktubers' 5-star books, in case you want to see that. So the 3 books that I ended up choosing were Patricia Lockwood's No One Is Talking About This, which both Scott and Nell did, I think, 3 different videos on this book. Again, I'll link all of those down below. I picked Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, and I also picked How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. So I'm going to tell you what I thought about all of those books, so let's go. So the first book that I read for this little project was No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. And there's a lot of sort of discussion about whether this book is even a novel at all, and the reason for that is when you read the either acknowledgments or the author's note at the end, whichever one it is, it becomes pretty clear that Patricia Lockwood largely based this on her own life and experiences. And so, yeah, so you're kind of not really sure whether you should even classify it as a novel. Is it more like autofiction? Is it a sort of interestingly told memoir? Or is it, as we used to say about 10 years ago in my own creative writing classes, creative nonfiction? So that is personally what I would choose to term this, as creative nonfiction. So the book is divided into 2 parts, and so it's kind of told as like a series of tweets almost, and the whole first part of it basically gives you a sense of the main character, and her online life and persona, and she's very involved in Twitter and becomes moderately famous for some tweet that says something like, "Can a dog be twins?" And so it's kind of a time capsule of the internet from a couple of years ago, and some of the things I recognized and some of them I didn't, and so all of that happens in the first more than half of the book. And then in the second part, the narrator is sort of pulled out of her online life to things that are happening in the real world, especially involving her sister and her sister having a baby. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I thought it was interesting that it was told in this kind of experimental format with the tweets. But I felt like there was a really big, it was very disjointed, because the first part of the book is lighter and a lot more humorous in tone, and the second part of the book is a lot more somber and serious, and so I just, I felt like they were kind of 2 different things. I mean, I understand why she did that. She's trying to sort of set up what she was like in the beginning, before all of this happened, and then how the second part of it affected. So I get why she did it that way, but it did come across as feeling kind of disjointed to me. Let's see, what else was I going to say about this? Oh, so it did make me laugh at certain points, but also I feel like Patricia Lockwood is the kind of person who tries to make everything funny regardless of whether it's a light or serious moment. And so there were some moments in the second part of the book that were supposed to be more serious or felt like they were supposed to be more serious and somber in tone, and she tries to like make kind of a joke out of them, and it sort of irked me. I'm like, you don't have to make a joke out of everything. Like, sometimes things are serious and that's fine. Just sit with that, you know? And then the other thing that sort of irked me about this and why I didn't give it a higher rating is because I kind of feel like it plays into some regressive stereotypes about women and how, like, you know, if a woman has a baby, then all of a sudden her life and her life's goal is complete and her life suddenly has meaning where it didn't before. And I didn't like that about this book, even though I feel like she's trying to sort of advocate for reproductive rights and things like that in the second half of the book. From what actually happens, it comes across to me as more like, yes, a baby will give your life meaning, especially if you are a woman. So I didn't care for that part. But again, I do think it's interesting, the experimental format of it. I think certainly some people will find it funny. I did find it funny at points. And if you don't mind that the first more than half of it is sort of lighter and comic and very internet based, and the second half of it is supposed to be more serious and somber in tone, then you will probably enjoy it. So 3 stars for No One Is Talking About This. I also read How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. This is a book that kind of concerns 2 stories of 2 women that are intertwined in, I guess it's Barbados. They just call it Paradise, but I guess it's in Barbados. And yeah, and they kind of have somewhat different circumstances. Like, one of them is wealthy and well off and is in a loving relationship, and the other one is, you know, poor and struggling and in an abusive relationship. So that's kind of the premise of it. So this book I just really found unrelentingly violent and depressing, with no real point of contrast to all of the bleakness. And this is also the kind of book that I'm already set up to not like, because it has like a rotating cast of different characters' perspectives. And if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know I don't like that. That's one of my pet peeves in a novel, because I feel like I don't get to know the characters very well when books, again, sort of rotate through a revolving cast of character point of views. And then the other thing about this book is there are 2 deaths that occur within the first few chapters of this novel, and I kind of felt like after that happened, there wasn't really anywhere for the story to go. And both of the sort of main female characters in this novel, Mira and Lala, their stories both kind of just stall after that point. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I think if you're someone who likes a cast of rotating character perspectives, you would probably enjoy this. If you don't mind a book that is really unrelentingly violent, and where there are very few, if any, characters to root for, if you don't mind that, then you might get on better with this book than I did. And, you know, a lot of people have liked this book, so, you know, by all means, don't take my word for it. But yeah, for me, it was just, like, really unrelentingly violent and bleak, and I was just like, I was not into that right now. So 3 stars. And then the last book I read for this project was Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, and I listened to this on audiobook, and it was narrated by, oh wait, I should say who translated. So the translator was, hang on, Ginny Tapley Takemori, and the audiobook was narrated by Nancy Wu, and I think Nancy Wu did a really good job of narrating the audiobook and of trying to do kind of different voices for the different characters. I thought she did a really good job. Now, Earthlings was probably the most compelling of the 3 of these books that I read for this project. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but no one should read this book. Like, it is so messed up. I mean, there's just like all kinds of trigger warnings for stuff. There's just like so much depraved stuff that happens in this book. That, yeah, even though I gave it 4 stars and kind of found it compulsively readable or listenable, because I kind of just had to know what was going to happen to the protagonist. Oh gosh, now I can't even remember what her name was. I'll put it over here somewhere. But yeah, like I kind of wanted to know what was going to end up happening to her. But yeah, it was really messed up. Trigger warnings for like 800 things. Pretty much every terrible thing you could imagine and more happens in this book. So yes, I did give it 4 stars, and I did find it a very compelling story, but no one should read this. It actually reminded me a lot of Hong Kong's The Vegetarian, in that it explores themes of bodily autonomy and women's role in society and what happens when people go against the grain of what's accepted socially. It reminded me, and also just because of how weird it was too. So it reminded me a lot of The Vegetarian for those reasons. But yeah, I think if you're interested in those themes, you should read The Vegetarian instead, because it's a lot less graphic than Earthlings. I also have been led to believe that Sayaka Murata's previous novel, Convenience Store Woman, explores a lot of the same themes that she touches on in Earthlings, but without all the messed up stuff. So yeah, like I'm both glad and also not glad that I read this book. So yeah, this has been a very interesting experiment. So yeah, that was my most successful of the books Scott has rated 5 stars this year, because I gave it 4 stars. But yeah, you really shouldn't read this, y'all. Now, if any of these people, if any of y'all watching are like my students, that means because I just told you not to read it, some of you are going to go read it anyway. So I accept that, but don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so anyway, happy birthday to Scott, and I hope that you enjoy your day, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video where I review some of your 5-star reads from this year. Thank you all for watching this. If you have read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts about them. Please let me know down in the comments below. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading, and until next time, would it kill you to call your mother?